That night, they sat next to each other without talking, but their hearts finally calmed down. "Why did you lie to me that night?" she asked, her voice barely louder than the rain hammering the abandoned train station roof. The question didn't echo, it cut. The space between them, though physically only inches wide on the cold, concrete bench, yawned like a chasm. Ezra's breath caught in his throat, the sulfur scent of distant lightning brushing his nostrils as the storm rolled closer. He didn't turn to her. He didn't need to. He could feel the fire in her words, the way her shoulders trembled not from the wind, but from holding too much for too long. It was 2:14. The last train had left hours ago. The station was a hollow skeleton of steel and memory, barely lit by a flickering overhead light that buzzed with every blink. Around them, the world slept, unaware of the silent war being waged by two people too proud to scream. Ezra hadn't spoken in 23 hours and 16 minutes, not since the message arrived. A single sentence that shattered everything. She knows. Myra's arrival at the station wasn't planned. Not by him, anyway. She always had a way of showing up when the ground started to give. Maybe that was her curse, or his. Their shared silence was not peaceful. It was sharp, the kind that draws blood beneath the skin. She sat beside him because there was nowhere else to go, and because despite it all, her body remembered his warmth like a ghost remembers the place it died. Myra smelled of petrichor and old jasmine perfume, the kind his mother used to wear. It was a scent that could anchor a man or pull him under. Ezra blinked, his vision tugged toward the broken clock tower beyond the tracks. Its hands stopped at 11:47. The same minute the fire started 3 years ago. The same minute he walked away from her, with hands stained in things he never dared to confess. She knew, that much was clear now. "I didn't lie," he whispered, voice low and threadbare, unraveling as it left him. "You did," she said, turning to him for the first time, eyes glinting with salt and accusation. "You just told a version that made you feel less guilty." The sound of the rain changed, like something heavier had begun to fall. Ash, perhaps, or memory. Ezra's knuckles whitened on the edge of the bench. He remembered the scream, his or someone buried under tons of rubble that night. He remembered the girl with the violet notebook, the one who shouldn't have died. He remembered Myra's voice on the phone, asking him to come back, please just come back, and how he didn't. Myra leaned back, her hair damp with storm mist, her heartbeat a rhythm she couldn't slow. She hated him. She missed him. Both truths existed, and neither canceled the other. They had both lost too much in silence, but sometimes silence was safer than the truth. "I saw her, Ezra, in the reflection, that night. Her face was burned into the glass." Ezra closed his eyes. There it was, the moment the past caught up. Myra hadn't sat next to him to accuse. She had come to release, to bleed out the memory that had eaten her sleep for years, and perhaps to see if there was anything left in him worth forgiving. A train horn wailed in the distance, ghostly, mournful, echoing through the mountains like a sound from another time. It wasn't real. There was no train coming, not for them. Ezra finally turned to her, the space between them unchanged, but the air now different. He looked older than he should at 33. Too many nights in places without names. Too many half-buried sins. "I'm sorry," he said, not as an excuse but as an offering. Myra didn't reply. She didn't need to. Her hand moved, not toward him but to the space between them, her fingers resting on the bench, palm open. Not a plea, not forgiveness, just presence. Ezra didn't take her hand. But he stayed. They sat like that, unmoving, as the sky broke open above them. Lightning illuminated the ruins beyond the tracks, briefly revealing the outlines of a building long forgotten and a door that had once burned red with warnings. Neither of them spoke again that night. But for the first time in years, their hearts, battle-weary and bruised, found something close to calm. And that perhaps was enough, for now. "You shouldn't have come here," Ezra muttered, jaw clenched, voice hoarse from smoke and unshed truths. Myra didn't blink, and yet here I am. The rain had stopped, but the air remained heavy, swollen with the promise of more storms. The concrete beneath their feet steamed with the memory of the downpour. Ezra stood now, packing the edges of the platform like a wolf confined, barely holding himself together. Myra remained seated, her arms crossed, boots soaked, hair clinging to her cheeks. "You know they'll come for you if they find out you talked to me," he said, voice low, nearly drowned out by the rustling trees beyond the station. She laughed, cold, sharp. "They already came, Ezra. You think I still have anything left to lose?" Ezra stopped packing, turned. His eyes bore into her, a flicker of something ancient and broken swimming behind them. "You don't know what you're doing." "No," she said, standing now, stepping into the space he left behind. "You don't know what you did. You think hiding in places like this makes it go away. That what happened to Lena dies just because no one says her name anymore." He flinched. There it was, the name. Lena. 3 years gone, but her name still tasted like copper and regret. The girl with the violet notebook. The one who kept secrets in margins, who knew too much and died too fast. Ezra looked away, but Myra didn't let up. "I saw your name on the file," she continued, stepping closer. "You signed the evacuation order 5 minutes before the blast. You were there." "You don't understand." "Then make me." Her voice cracked like a whip, eyes ablaze. "For once, Ezra, stop protecting whatever the hell it is you're protecting and just tell me the truth." He swallowed hard. The train tracks shimmered with the ghosts of heat and memory. The station felt too small, too full of shadows and eyes. He checked the horizon instinctively. No headlights yet, but they were coming. He could feel it. "Lena wasn't supposed to be there," he said finally, every word pulled from his throat like teeth. "She was supposed to be extracted 2 hours earlier, but she went back." Myra's heart pounded. Back for what? Ezra hesitated. The notebook. The one they said was never recovered. He nodded bitterly. Because it was recovered by someone who shouldn't have had it. Her voice fell into a whisper. "You." "No," he said, gaze hardening. "By someone who used it to wipe 3 entire names off the indictment list. Someone who made a deal with the committee before the story ever broke. Lena died to expose them, and they turned her into a ghost." Silence fell again. But it was different this time. Not empty, charged. Myra's breath came fast, fury rising in her chest. "You knew this for years and said nothing," she spat. "You let me believe she got herself killed chasing some conspiracy." "She did chase a conspiracy," Ezra snapped. "She just didn't realize how deep it went. And if I'd said anything, they would have buried me too, along with you, along with your brother." The mention of her brother stopped her cold. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Ezra took the moment, stepping back, arms at his sides in surrender. "They said if I kept quiet, if I disappeared, they'd leave you both alone. That was the deal." "And now?" she asked, voice like broken glass. He looked past her, toward the tree line. "Now someone's breaking the deal." A rustle. Myra turned sharply, hand instinctively reaching into her coat. Ezra tensed, eyes narrowing. "Do you have it?" he asked, eyes on her. "The notebook," she said, lips twitching with something between defiance and fear. "Do you really think I'd come here without it?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If they find it, you're dead, Myra." She stepped even closer, their breath mingling now in the cold air. "If I don't find out who killed my sister, I'm already dead." His eyes widened. "Sister." The silence between them exploded. Ezra staggered back. "You never said." "She was adopted. We weren't public. Lena didn't want that," she said, eyes glassy but unwavering. "She was trying to protect me, just like you were, but she's gone, Ezra, and I'm done being protected." He ran a hand through his hair, packing again. "This changes everything." "Good," Myra said, "because I didn't come here for your protection. I came for blood." The trees beyond the tracks cracked, a branch snapping like a bone. Ezra froze. Myra turned. Shadows moved between trunks too large for animals, too precise for wind. "We need to go," Ezra said. But Myra didn't move. She pulled the violet notebook from inside her coat, holding it like a weapon, like a promise. "I'm not running again." spotlight flared in the distance, a drone whirred overhead, mechanical and unrelenting. Ezra grabbed her wrist. "Myra." "Let go," she hissed, trying to wrench free. But he didn't. He held on, gaze locked with hers. "If we're going down," he said, voice low and certain, "we go down together." And just like that, the past caught fire again. "You betrayed her," Myra hissed, her voice razor-sharp, breath fogging the space between them. "You left her to die." Ezra didn't flinch. He looked her dead in the eyes, his expression carved from guilt and something deeper, something darker. "I tried to get her out, they used me. You think I don't live with that every night?" "No," she said, stepping back, clutching the violet notebook tighter to her chest. "You live with secrets. That's not the same as living with guilt." A wind tore through the trees behind them, carrying with it the low, mechanical hum of the drone's searchlights slicing through the dark. They had only seconds now. Ezra glanced toward the forest edge. Two red lights blinked rhythmically between the trees like the eyes of something ancient and hunting. "They're not here to ask questions," he said. "They're here to erase anything that's still breathing." Myra's fists clenched. "Then let them try." He grabbed her shoulder firm. "This is not the time to be righteous." She pushed him off. "Then when is the time, Ezra? When they've killed every last person who knows Lena's name. When they've burned every trace of her existence, and mine and yours." The lights drew closer. Through the trees, dark figures moved, 3, maybe 4. Silent, military precision, no insignias. Myra turned on her heel and sprinted toward the edge of the platform. Ezra followed, boots crunching over gravel and broken glass. They ducked into the brush as a spotlight passed overhead, bathing the station in sterile white light, revealing a silence too perfect to be natural. They crouched low in the undergrowth, breaths ragged. "Who the hell are they?" Myra whispered. Ezra leaned closer, eyes locked on the movement beyond the branches. "They used to be Black Line, now they work freelance, ghost ops, no jurisdiction, no limits." "Who sent them?" He hesitated. "My father." Her stomach dropped. "Your father," she breathed. "He's not the man you met," Ezra said quietly. "Not anymore. After Lena, after I left, they brought him back in. He's part of the board now. He's cleaning house." Myra let out a bitter laugh. "Jesus Christ, you're telling me we're being hunted by your family." "You think I wanted this?" Ezra hissed. "You think I wanted to come back to this hell just to end up hunted like an animal? Then why did you come back?" He didn't answer, not with words, just a look. A raw, ruined look that held years of buried confessions and sleepless nights. It was enough to silence her for a moment. A twig snapped nearby. They froze. One of the men was within 10 feet now, muzzle of a rifle glinting between leaves. Myra reached slowly into her coat, fingers brushing the cold handle of the small revolver tucked in her waistband. Ezra shook his head. "Don't." "He'll see us," she whispered. "I said don't," he growled, and without warning, rose from the brush with his hands raised. Myra's heart stopped. The soldier froze, weapon trained on Ezra's chest. "Put the gun down," the man barked. Ezra didn't blink. "She's gone, you missed her. I'm the only one here now." It was a lie so stupid it might have worked, if Myra were Myra. She stepped out behind him, gun raised, aimed straight at the man's head. "You've got about 3 seconds to reconsider your options, asshole." The soldier's eyes flicked between the two of them. His finger twitched near the trigger. Ezra stepped sideways, shielding her. "Don't, please." Another voice crackled through the man's earpiece. Garbled, one word was clear. "Terminate." The man lifted the rifle. Myra didn't hesitate. One shot, clean and bright, split the air like thunder. The soldier dropped like a puppet with its strings severed. The forest went silent again. Ezra turned to her, stunned. "You." "Don't," she said. "You don't get to tell me how to survive." They didn't wait for the others. Together they ran, deeper into the woods, the ground slick with moss and blood. Branches tore at their faces. The darkness swallowed them whole. They reached the edge of a ravine by dawn, panting, soaked, bleeding. Myra collapsed to her knees, the violet notebook still clutched against her chest like a lifeline. Ezra sat beside her, staring at the sky as the sun broke through the mist. A sliver of light painted the horizon gold, false peace. She looked at him, eyes rimmed with red. "I thought if I found it, I'd feel better," she whispered. "You thought justice would feel like closure," he said. "No," she murmured. "I thought she'd be proud of me." He looked at her then, really looked, saw the way she carried it all, the grief, the guilt, the fire. She would be. Myra closed her eyes. There was still so much they didn't say, so many names that hadn't been spoken, so many dead who wouldn't rest until the truth was unearthed. But for now, they were still alive. And that meant the story wasn't over. "You lied to me again," Myra said, voice trembling with fury as she threw the notebook to the ground between them. Pages spilled out like wounded birds, fluttering across the dirt, stained with ink and the memory of a dead girl's voice. Ezra didn't answer at first. He sat against a tree trunk, his shirt soaked in blood that wasn't his, staring at the place where the last soldier's body had fallen hours earlier. The forest was quiet now, too quiet. The kind of quiet that felt like it was holding its breath. Myra stepped forward, fists clenched. "Page 93, Ezra. The page you said was torn out." He finally looked up, eyes bloodshot and exhausted. "It was." "Then how the hell did I find it tucked inside your jacket?" she shouted. "You kept it. You've had it this whole time." His face gave him away, just for a second. A flicker of shame, a fracture in the mask. "I didn't know what was on it," he said softly. "You're lying," she snapped. He stood slowly. "I was trying to protect you." "Stop saying that like it's noble," she said, stepping toward him, their bodies inches apart. "You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself." Ezra didn't deny it. Myra knelt and picked up the page. It was different than the others, handwritten, not typed. Lena's handwriting. Slanted and fast, with words circled in red. One word repeated 3 times in the margin, crossline. She looked at him, ice in her veins. "What is crossline?" He hesitated. Her voice sharpened. "What is it, Ezra?" He closed his eyes. "It's not a place, it's a protocol." "A kill order," she guessed. "Worse," he said. "It's a cleansing directive, a total wipe. Every trace of a project, a person, a city if needed, erased, like it never happened." She felt cold all over. Lena found proof they activated it. He nodded, not just once. "Where?" His voice was barely audible. "Brunswick and Agner." She froze. "My hometown." 10 years ago. You remember the chemical fire." Myra's breath caught. That wasn't an accident. Ezra's face twisted. It was a trial run. She staggered backward, like his words had struck her physically. Her knees hit the ground. All this time, her childhood, her friends, the school that burned, the nightmares, none of it random. "They tested it on us," she whispered. "They tested it on you," he said, stepping closer. "Because of your mother." Myra's head snapped up. "Don't." "You need to hear this," Ezra said, kneeling beside her. "Your mother worked with Lena. They were both part of the first wave of whistleblowers. When the operation started to unravel, the agency targeted every name on that list, including your mother. But she erased herself before they could." She blinked, stunned. "What does that mean?" "She went underground, changed identities, burned the files. Even Lena didn't know where she went in the end." Myra shook her head. "You're lying." "I wish I was," he said, pulling something from his pocket. A photograph. Old, worn, torn in the corner. Myra's mother, standing beside a younger Lena, holding a folder marked X13. The world tilted beneath her. "I thought she was a nurse," she whispered. She was, until she was. A branch snapped nearby. Ezra sprang to his feet, scanning the tree line. Myra stayed low, still trying to process the unraveling of everything she thought she knew. A new voice called from the trees, calm, cold. "Put your weapons down and come out slowly." Ezra grabbed Myra's arm. "We have to run." But she didn't move. That voice, I know that voice. She stood. Ezra yanked her back down. Myra. But she was already walking forward, hands raised, heart hammering. A figure stepped from the shadows, tall, dressed in black, not a soldier. Civilian, surgical in presence, and in his eyes familiarity. Myra stopped, her stomach twisted. Uncle Theo. The man tilted his head. Hello, Myra. Ezra stepped out behind her, gun drawn. He's not your uncle. Yes, I am, Theo said casually, just not in the way she thinks. Myra's voice trembled. You were at the funeral, you held my hand. You said she died in her sleep. I said what I had to say, Theo said. Ezra took aim. I'll drop you right here. Theo smiled. Then you'll never know the rest. Myra didn't blink. Tell me. Theo's eyes narrowed. Your mother didn't disappear, she didn't die. She was captured, she's alive. Everything inside her collapsed into stillness. That's impossible, she whispered. It's not, Theo said. She's in the Crossline facility, underground, off-grid. She's the last living source of everything they want to keep buried. Ezra stepped forward, disbelief and fury battling behind his eyes. Why are you telling us this? Theo turned his eyes on him. Because I'm switching sides. Myra laughed, a broken sound. You expect me to believe that? No, he said, but you'll believe this. He pulled something from his coat and tossed it at her feet, a USB drive. Black, unlabeled. Ezra picked it up, inspecting it. What's on it? Everything, Theo said. Every protocol, every name, every kill. Myra's eyes narrowed. What's the catch? No catch, he said. Just a question. Ask it, she said. He stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. How far are you willing to go for the truth? She stared into his eyes. Then she said, without blinking, farther than you ever imagined. The air felt different the moment Theo left. Thinner, tighter, like it knew something had shifted that neither of them could undo. Ezra stood silently beside the fire they'd built beneath the hollowed-out bridge, fingers still clenched around the USB drive as if it might bite. Myra stared into the flames, her expression unreadable. She hadn't said a word since Theo vanished into the trees. Her eyes were locked in the past, face carved with too many new cracks for someone so young. Ezra wanted to speak, God, he wanted to say something, but everything he thought of felt too small. You believe him, he finally said. She didn't look at him. I don't have to. The truth doesn't need my permission to be real. He sat beside her slowly, placing the USB on the log between them like an offering. If your mother's alive, then that changes everything. Myra nodded once, still staring at the fire. No, it explains everything. He watched her for a long moment. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that everything I hated about myself, the nightmares, the paranoia, the way I always felt like someone was watching, it wasn't brokenness. It was instinct. Ezra hesitated. She must have had a reason to keep it all from you. Myra turned to him slowly, eyes rimmed with salt. She left me in that burning town. She let me grow up thinking my entire life had been an accident. Maybe it was to protect you. Or maybe it was guilt, she whispered. Maybe she couldn't face what she helped build. Ezra exhaled, rubbing his temple. You're not the only one haunted by parents who made deals with the devil. She turned sharply. What did your father do? He paused. Worse than I thought, he didn't just sign the Crossline directive. He designed it. Myra blinked. What? He was one of the architects. The ones who said cleansing entire districts was cleaner than litigation. Efficient, he said. Targeted. Cold-blooded is what I call it. She looked at him, stunned. And you still tried to protect him? No, Ezra said. I was trying to bury him. Her eyes narrowed. By covering up Lena's death. He looked at her, jaw tightening. I didn't know she had proof. Not at first. I thought she was just digging, trying to find leverage. I thought maybe she'd pushed too far. But when she told me she found names, real names, and I saw my father among them, I froze. Myra's voice was ice. And then she died. I didn't pull the trigger. But you let it happen. That silence again, too loud, too sharp. He looked away. I ran, because if I stayed, I would have been next. Myra laughed bitterly. So you let someone else become the martyr. I let her die, he snapped. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to fight them. She stood suddenly, packing. We don't have that luxury anymore. If my mother is still alive, if she's still being kept somewhere, then we have one shot at getting her out before they wipe the slate again. Ezra nodded. We'll need access, codes, logistics. Myra pointed at the USB. That's what that's for. Then we need someone who can crack it. She looked at him. I know someone, but he won't like seeing me. Ezra's brow furrowed. Why? Because I put a knife in his leg 6 months ago. Ezra stared. You really know how to make friends. Myra gave a hollow smile. He deserved it. The next 12 hours were a blur. Stealing a car from an abandoned checkpoint. Traversing back roads barely held together by roots and asphalt. The tension between them never eased, like an invisible thread stretched too tight, threatening to snap. But something was different now. It wasn't just vengeance driving them anymore. It was the bitter taste of hope. The safe house was a crumbling warehouse outside Dinsmore, shielded by rusted fences and watchful crows. Ezra waited by the entrance, weapon drawn, while Myra entered alone. She stepped through the doorway into a room buzzing with old computers, server racks whirring like a mechanical heartbeat. At the center sat a man in a wheelchair, soldering something that sparked blue and angry. His beard was thicker than she remembered, but the scowl hadn't changed. Well, well, he muttered without looking up. If it isn't the hurricane herself. Hello, Felix. He didn't glance up. Here to finish the job. Not today. What do you want? She stepped closer and tossed the USB onto the table. This. Felix stared at it like it was a bomb. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Yes, he snapped. Because this is raw code. You plug this into the wrong machine and it won't just crash your system, it'll send a signal. Ezra stepped through the doorway. What kind of signal? Felix looked up for the first time, eyes flicking between the two. The kind that tells the board someone's trying to light a match under their secrets. Myra crossed her arms. Can you crack it or not? Felix leaned back, folding his arms. I can, but not for you. Myra's jaw clenched. Because of the leg. Because of Lena. The room fell silent. What about her? Myra asked quietly. Felix's voice was like glass underfoot. She was going to send this to me, the night she died. She left me a voicemail, said she finally got what we needed to bring down Crossline, said she was coming to me, but she never made it. I didn't know, Myra said. Felix's eyes burned. She trusted you. You let her walk into a death trap. Ezra stepped forward. If anyone's to blame. But Felix raised a hand. Don't. I've read the reports. What's left of them? You were all knee-deep in this filth. Myra stared at him, trembling. You don't think I blame myself every goddamn day? You don't think I wake up choking on the fire that killed her? Felix's voice cracked. She was my sister. Myra froze. No, she whispered. He nodded. Half-sister, same father. She found me 3 years before she died, said I deserved to know. We stayed in touch, secretly. I was the only one she trusted to decrypt her findings. Myra sank into the nearest chair, shaken. Why didn't she tell me? She wanted to keep you out of it. Said you'd already paid enough for the sins of others. Silence swallowed the room. Felix picked up the USB. I'll do it, but not for you, for her. Ezra stepped closer. How long will it take? 6 hours, he said. Maybe less if I don't die of rage in the process. Myra stood. Then start now, we'll cover you. As Felix rolled toward his machine, he paused and glanced back. You'd better be ready, because once this opens, you'll never be able to close it again. And in the flicker of servers and ghosts, the war for truth began to breathe. The screen flickered to life with an eerie hum, casting pale blue light across the warehouse walls. Felix's fingers danced across the keyboard with the fury of a man resurrecting ghosts that should have stayed dead. Myra stood behind him, arms crossed. heart pounding as line after line of code decrypted in bursts. Green, yellow, then red. Ezra leaned against the far wall, watching her more than the monitor. She hadn't spoken in over an hour, but her eyes, sharp, focused, and glassy, screamed of anticipation and dread. Finally, Felix exhaled, a bitter sound that sounded more like surrender than victory. "It's open." Myra moved beside him, the screen now displaying rows of project files. She scrolled past names she didn't recognize, past dates that sent a chill down her spine, until she saw it. Project ASHLANI. She clicked. The screen shifted. Documents, memos, surveillance footage. And at the top, her mother's name. She stumbled backward. Ezra caught her before she hit the floor. "She's been alive this whole time," she whispered. "In their custody since 2015. Felix turned, eyes haunted. "It gets worse." He clicked open a file labeled Test Subject 19. A video began to play, grainy, time-stamped. A white room, a woman in a hospital gown strapped to a chair, unmoving. Then the camera shifted, revealing her face. Myra gasped. It was her. Or rather, it looked like her. Identical. She stepped forward, knuckles white on the table. "What the hell is this?" Felix didn't answer. Ezra did. "They cloned her." Myra turned, stunned. "What?" He pointed to the document, beneath the video feed. Subject 19, DNA-stabilized clone, created from donor Dahlia Soren. Functional intelligence retained. Subject demonstrates elevated emotional response and cognitive acceleration. "Dahlia Soren," she asked, voice raw. Felix looked up. "Your mother's original name." She staggered back again, the world spinning too fast. "So what am I?" she whispered. "Am I even real?" Ezra took a step forward. "You're not the clone." She looked up. "How do you know?" "Because you bleed," he said. "Because you remember, because clones don't flinch when they kill." Felix shook his head. "There's no record of Subject 19 dying, no termination code, if she's still alive." "She's out there," Myra finished. The warehouse door groaned. They all froze. Footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate. Ezra pulled his gun. Myra grabbed the knife from her belt. Felix shut the monitor down. Then the door opened, and a woman stepped inside. Myra's eyes widened. She was looking at herself. Identical. Down to the scar under the chin, down to the faint freckle on the left eyelid. It was like looking into a mirror, but colder. The other Myra raised her hands. "Don't shoot." Ezra aimed anyway. "Move one step and I swear." "I'm not here to fight," she said calmly. "I'm here because I need your help." Myra stepped forward, heart in her throat. "What the hell are you?" "I'm the reason you're still alive," the other said. "I've been following you for months, cleaning the trail, taking out the hunters." Ezra's hands tightened on the grip. "You're Subject 19. "I prefer Myra," she said. Myra's head spun. "You expect me to believe you've been protecting me." "I didn't choose to be created," Subject 19 said, voice tight. "But I chose to break out. I chose to destroy what made me. And when I saw you free, wild, real, I knew what they stole from me." Felix stepped forward. "If she's real, we need her testimony." Subject 19 turned to him. "You were supposed to be dead." "Yeah, I get that a lot." She looked at the powered-down screen. "You have the files." Ezra raised his gun again. "Why do you care?" "Because I want what you want," she said. "To burn it all down." Myra's voice trembled. "Where's my mother?" Subject 19 met her gaze. "Alive, but barely. They keep her sedated, deep underground, but I know the way in." Ezra lowered his weapon slowly. "This could be a trap." Myra stepped toward her double. "Then let it be one." The two versions of Myra stood inches apart now. Flesh and shadow, history and possibility, neither flinched. "I need to know who I am," Myra said. Subject 19 nodded. "Then let's go meet the woman who created us both." Outside, the night roared back to life. Helicopters beat in the distance. Dogs barked. Tires screamed on distant pavement. Time was running out. Felix opened the floorboard beneath the servers and pulled out a long metal case. "Take this," he said, tossing Ezra a modified rifle. "Silenced, scoped, GPS tagged." "To what?" Ezra asked. "To your pulse," Felix said. "If you die, it sends everything in this drive to every network on the black web." Myra blinked. "You had a failsafe this whole time." Felix didn't smile. "I'm paranoid, not stupid." They packed what they could. Subject 19 led the way, moving through shadows like she'd been born in them. Ezra watched her, unease rising in his gut. She was Myra, not really. There was a rigidity to her steps, an absence in her expressions. She was a knife without a handle. Myra walked beside her, trying not to stare, but the more she looked, the more she saw the truth. This woman was her reflection in a war-torn mirror. She whispered to Ezra, "Do you trust her?" "No," he said, "but I trust you." She swallowed hard. That might be even worse. By morning, they reached the edge of the facility. Underground, hidden beneath a decommissioned science museum, barbed wire, trip sensors, armed guards. Subject 19 pointed to a drainage shaft. "That's our way in." Myra looked at Ezra, then at her own face staring back. And without a word, she crawled into the dark. The truth was no longer just a mission. It was survival, for her mother, for the version of herself they tried to erase, and for the fire that was coming next. The air inside the shaft was damp and choked with rust. Every movement sent echoes through the narrow tunnel, metal scraping on metal, breathing too loud, hearts pounding like footsteps in a sealed tomb. Ezra crawled behind Myra, weapons slung across his back, eyes constantly shifting. Behind him, Subject 19 moved silently, like the ghost she'd become. When they reached the end of the tunnel, it opened into a dim corridor beneath the museum's crumbling foundations. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The hum of machines pulsed through the floor. The deeper they moved, the more sterile the air became. Myra could smell bleach and electricity. She had smelled death before. This was worse. This was containment. Subject 19 led them down a forgotten maintenance stairwell, pausing only to bypass a security panel using the severed hand of a guard she had killed before they met. There was no ceremony, no remorse, only efficiency. Myra didn't ask where she'd gotten it. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. The final hallway stretched before them, lined with heavy reinforced doors. Some were open, revealing empty gurneys. Some were shut, sealed with rust and blood. Ezra whispered, "Which one?" Subject 19 didn't hesitate. She pointed. "The door at the end. Room C7. The lock disengaged with a mechanical click. Myra reached out first, pushing the door slowly. Inside, the room was sterile, cold, silent. A single bed, monitors, restraints. And a woman. Older, thinner, pale. Her eyes were closed, lips parted in unconscious breath. Wires ran from her arms to the machines around her. But Myra knew. Somehow, even through the layers of time and lies, she knew. "Mom," she breathed. Ezra moved to the monitors. She sedated, deeply. Subject 19 stepped forward, pressing a needle into an IV line. "We don't have time for gentle." Myra knelt by the bed, brushing tangled strands of hair from her mother's face. "Please," she whispered, "come back." The woman stirred, slightly. Her eyelids fluttered, her lips parted. Then quietly, hoarsely, she whispered, "Myra." It was like the world cracked open. Myra gripped her mother's hand as the machines around them began to beep erratically. Ezra spun toward the doorway. "We're out of time." The lights cut. Alarms blared. "They know," Subject 19 said. "Then let's make it hurt," Myra growled, standing. She handed her mother's weak form to Ezra. "Get her out, no matter what." Ezra looked at her. "You're coming with us." "I will," she said, "after I end this." Subject 19 handed her a small detonator. "Mainframe," behind Lab D 1 floor up. Ezra hesitated. "Myra." But she kissed him, hard, fast, final. I'll find you, she whispered. He stared at her, pain etched across his face, then nodded once and carried her mother out the door with subject 19. Myra ran. The hallways blurred past her. She moved like a shadow, like memory. She reached the mainframe chamber and planted the explosives along the cooling cores. As she worked, the files flashed through her mind. Cities cleansed, names erased, families destroyed. Her family. She had been born from fire and silence. But this would be her legacy. She hit the trigger. Alarms screamed. The building trembled. In the distance, she heard shouting, footsteps, then gunfire. But Myra didn't run. She turned toward the emergency exit, toward the others. She found Ezra and Subject 19 just as the blast rocked the floor beneath them. Fire licked through the steel corridors. Sirens howled. Sprinklers hissed overhead. They emerged through the museum's back tunnel, Myra's mother weak in Ezra's arms, breathing but alive. Outside, dawn was breaking. The facility collapsed behind them, swallowed by fire and memory. They ran. They ran until the smoke was far behind, until the helicopters stopped circling, until silence returned. They reached a safe house 2 days later, an old greenhouse reclaimed by nature. Birdsong replaced sirens. Sunlight filtered through cracked glass. Myra sat beside her mother's bed. She hadn't spoken much since waking, but her eyes followed Myra now, a flicker of recognition, of peace. Ezra stood at the door, watching them both. She's strong, he said. Myra nodded. So was Lena. Subject 19 leaned against the far wall, arms crossed. The world will come looking. Let them, Myra said. Ezra smiled faintly. What now? Myra looked out the window, the sunrise washing her face in gold. She felt the weight of the past, the lives lost, the pain endured. But for the first time in her life, her heart was not at war. Now, she said, we live. And that night, they sat next to each other without talking, but their hearts finally calmed down.